Alright, so this video is to review our two theorems that we started this unit with, the triangle sum theorem and the triangle inequality theorem. First, the triangle sum theorem. This theorem states that the three angles that are inside my triangle must add to 180 degrees. Remember, this only works with angles. The simple application of that is if I know two angle measures, I can find my third angle measure. Because the first angle measure plus the second angle measure plus the third, which in this case is x, has to add to 180 degrees. This is an algebra problem. We should be able to solve that. 19 plus 65 is 84. 180 minus that 84 means my x is 96, or in other words, this is a 96 degree angle. Adding a step of difficulty as far as algebra goes, but the exact same geometry concept. I know this angle's 37, this angle is 88. If I add those two angles together, and then also add my third angle here, which is 2x plus 1, all three angles add to 180 degrees. Slightly more complex algebra problem because I have a little more work to do to solve for x. Combine my like terms, I get 2x plus 126 equals 180, subtract 126 from both sides, I wind up with 2x equals 54, and finally divide, I get x equals 27. Those are the two of the easier applications. How can we make this a little bit more complex? Is I'm going to give you multiple triangles, or what I like to call bow tie triangles. This is a really important idea from Unit 1. X is over here. In order to find x, I need all three angles, but I don't know what this angle here, I'll call it angle 1, is. I do know that this is 95. I know that the measure of whatever I get for angle 1 plus my 95 degree angle plus x has to be 180 degrees because those three angles are made up of this triangle. But I don't know this angle measure. What I do know from Unit 1 is that this angle measure is congruent to this angle measure. Those are vertical angles. So if I can find this angle, then I know this angle. Well, that's good, because I know that I have 72 degrees, 74 degrees. This, which I will call angle 2, has to make these three angles add to 180. So it's my 72 plus my 74 plus the measure of my angle 2 has to be 180 degrees. The quick algebra tells me that the measure of angle 2, when I add these, subtract that sum from 180, gives me 34. That makes this a 34 degree angle, which makes this a 34 degree angle, which means triangle sum theorem tells me that 34 plus 95 plus x is 180 degrees. Solve this for x, and x is 51, or this is a 51 degree angle. So that's a little bit more complex geometry problem, not as difficult as maybe the second example with algebra, but it's a much more complex geometry problem. You have to utilize one triangle, vertical angles, to find x in my second triangle. So that was the first part of the lesson on day 1, where we just talked about the three angles in a triangle. The second part of the lesson focused on the three sides of our triangles, and that dealt with the triangle inequality theorem, stating that the sum of the lengths of any two sides of a triangle must be greater than the length of the third side. In addition to that, we talked about how the longest side of a triangle is opposite the largest angle, and vice versa. Shortest side is opposite the smallest angle. Looking at these three examples, the first one is an application, so number 4 is an application of this first goal, understanding the triangle inequality theorem. I know two sides are 7 and 15. That means my third side I don't know. I'll call it x. I don't know what it is. But I do know that 15 is bigger than 7. So we have two options here. Either 15 is the biggest side length we have, or my longest side. Or it's the middle. It's definitely not the shortest. If it's the middle, that makes my longest side, this third side I don't know, x. My triangle inequality theorem states that the sum of the lengths of two sides must be equal or greater than the length of the third side. The third side always being my longest side. So here I'm going to have a short side plus a, I'll call it medium side, not a very technical term, has to be bigger than the longest side. Well, 15 might be my longest side. In that case, 7 is either the short or the middle, and it doesn't really matter which one, because I'm either going to have 7 plus x or x plus 7, and that's the same thing. Solving this inequality, subtract 7 from both sides, I get that x needs to be greater than 8. This means my third side has to be bigger than 8 in order for this to be a triangle. I can do a similar workup here. I know that my short plus my medium has to be bigger than my longest, but in this case I know that the short is 7 and the medium is 15. That has to be bigger than my third side, x. In other words, 22 has to be bigger than x, or I would say x is greater than 8 and x is less than 22. That would be the inequality that represents my third side. I would read this by saying x has to be between 8 and 22. Not 8, not 22, but anywhere in between. The last part of the notes recognized that my biggest angle is opposite my longest side. This is my longest side, 22. Okay, that tells me that this is my longest side. That means this angle over here, A, that opens up to touch the endpoints, is my biggest angle. And then it works in my opposite concept as well. Segment AS is 11. That's my shortest side. That means the angle over here, angle D, has to be my smallest angle. So the directions say put the angles in order from smallest to largest. I gave you side lengths. I want the angles. You have to put it in the correct geometric symbols. Angle, smallest to largest. So smallest angle here is angle D. The largest angle here we said was angle A. That makes my third angle, angle S, the middle angle. This would be my solution. Smallest, middle, largest. Working in the opposite direction, same idea. Over here, my shortest side was across my smallest angle. Here, I know my smallest angle. It's this one. It's 55 degrees. Since that's my smallest angle, across from it is this segment. That makes this my shortest side. I don't know the actual length of that side. I just know that it's shorter than all of the others. I would list that as segment AD with the segment symbol. Then my longest side is going to be across from my largest angle. Largest angle here is 67 degrees. That makes my longest side my other segment that starts with A, and that's segment AS. My third segment, DS, has to be the middle length. Go ahead and try the practice quiz. If you're still struggling, please come in for extra help.